One of the most important things to all of us in our jobs is the patients. Every year, MedtechWOMEN engages with the patient community in a tradition that we hold dear to us, and one that we think is pretty unique to what we do. It serves to inspire us in all of our impactful work and continues to build empathy to this audience for the patient experience. And it continues to be a critical conversation to have, not just for patients broadly, but also because inequities in healthcare continue to be found, and COVID was a stark awakening for some and a painful reminder to others that these exist, and health equity is still not a reality. Alongside the racial inequities that were magnified by COVID, recent events have also eroded protections around women's reproductive rights. So it feels timely to learn about other hurdles to reproductive health from a fibroid survivor and advocate, Melissa Muganzo Murphy. Melissa is a multi-hyphenate actor, humanitarian, activist, and community organizer. She serves as the CEO of Muganzo Entertainment and executive producer and director of the 2022 feature-length documentary, The Big Histo, A Black Woman Revolution, a visual call to action about medical racism and womb justice on behalf of all womb holders. Melissa is a proud graduate of UC Davis, where she received her bachelor's degree in community regional development, Sacramento State, where she graduated with her master's in higher education leadership, and a proud alum of Sacramento's Entrepreneurship Academy, where she earned her professional certificate in global entrepreneurship in 2018. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause as we welcome her to the stage.
Can everyone hear me okay? Good morning, everybody. I am a huge Beyonce stan, you should know this. And she did me a favor by dropping her latest album recently, and I've been in pure serenity ever since. We were talking yesterday with a friend of mine that's actually at a Stanford post-fellowship for journalism, how we're ready to risk it all for her next concert. So we're absolutely ready. So first of all, thank you for allowing me to be in this space. Thank you for granting the folks that represent myself and my identities and my communities to be here. I'm so excited, and we're gonna get into some things. Is that cool? Because we're gonna talk about it, okay? So my name is Melissa Muganzo Murphy. My pronouns are she, they, and cis, and I'm the CEO of Muganzo Entertainment, and let's do this. And my question today is, but what about the Black patients? Okay, I want you to remember that. What about the Black patients? As we ground this conversation, we need to honor the land that we're on. California is Native and Indigenous land, and we need to honor the folks that have labored the land before us, that allow us to eat here, sit here, and exist in this space. So let's take a moment to honor the Muweki Ohlone tribe, and then take a second to honor the Sankofa land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and thank all people of African ancestry who were stolen from their homelands and brought to this country, and whose free labor played a major role in the formation and economic wealth of this country. We also honor the contributions of African American ancestral scientists, inventors, and entrepreneurs whose contributions were stolen and never acknowledged due to white supremacy. We honor and will not forget the thousands upon thousands of lives lost at the hands of enslavers, vigilantes, law enforcers, and other forces of hatred in this country, generation after generation, for the singular crime of being Black, Indigenous, and people of color. We affirm and uplift those African ancestry living in this country today as living testaments to the strength, love, faith, and fortitude of a resilient people. Yes. We have to celebrate that. Thank you. The next thing I want you all to do is get in conversation with the people at your table. One of the things I am so proud to be is a proud queer Black woman. There is nothing more greater than that, baby, okay? But without the people that have come before me, I wouldn't be here. And of those people, that is my grandmothers. My grandmothers on both sides were very strong, outspoken, get straight to the point type of people, but in two completely different spaces. And one thing we tend to do when people transition to spiritual form is we tend to forget them. We don't even say their names anymore because we come from this place of desolation, like, oh, they're gone forever. But our ancestors are always with us. They're in our features, they're in the way that we style ourselves, they're in the way that we carry our confidence. And one thing I want us to do here today as we get into the history behind this world is to honor them by saying their names. So on the count of 3, I want you to call out your grandmother's names and give them honor and space and welcome them into the room, okay? 1, 2, 3. Doris Apondo. Yes. Because they went through things that we could never imagine, right? Birthing children, having conversations that were in secret spaces because they were scared to be vocal about the pains they were going through, let alone if they even wanted kids, right? If you really talk to your grandmother, they'll give you that wink in the gun like, I actually hate your grandfather, but here we are. But here we are, right? And these are honest conversations, and it's time to start opening them up and be real about it, yeah? We can only get to liberation in truth. These are my grandmothers. Doris Sewer, who died at 67 and got her PhD at 65, and Apondo Muganzo, who died when I was 2 years old. My grandmother, Doris Sewer, is from St. Thomas Virgin Islands, and my grandmother, Apondo Muganzo, is from Nairobi, Kenya. So I stand here as a proud Kenyan, West Indian, Black identified American who knows that it is my job to give light, liberty, protection, and solace to the people that could not speak, let alone be English speaking, or have the chance to have a conversation like this in the room of people that get it. And that's why we honor our grandmothers. Because let me tell you, when they get to talking, you're like, ooh, this is some tea. This is spicy tea, Grandma. While both of them are not living today, I carry them, and specifically Apondo because I look just like her. And so thank you, Doris, thank you, Apondo, for the opportunity. Now, what you see on the outside, it's all fluff and stuff, right? I'm a bunch of different things. You see, I'm a presenter, I'm awarded. Can you hear me okay with this? Okay. I'm presented, I'm awarded, I'm a restaurateur, I've been a diversity trainer, I've been a higher education leader, I've been an administrator, I've had a dance company, I've had a traveling singing group. I can write you a song right now, and we can go on tour. I'm still waiting for Beyonce to call me right now, okay? But these are the things that people like to applaud. They're like, ooh, you seem hella smart. Wow, you must have something to say. But what you don't see is all the things that I've been through in my life that has given me the language, the opportunity, and the space to be able to stand here in confidence and talk about the hard stuff, right? That's just underneath that. And that takes vulnerability, something that is hella scary in the workplace. You want me to like you? I don't know about all that, right? This is what you don't see. Queer, Black, African, West Indian, temporally able-bodied, right? Because that's that privilege. A uterine health survivor, a patient, a human. On the left side is me in Orlando, Florida, where I was born. And I told my mom, where the hell was the lotion at? Why y'all do me like that? Why y'all do that to me? 6 years old. My mother, Melinda Muganzo, my mother had a traveling singing group called RCM. Renee, Cynthia, Melinda. She used to organize the harmonies for them. One day while writing a song, she's like, Melissa, come hold this note while I put the music together. So I hummed the note. She said, wait a minute, you can hella sing? Put me on the program next week. Next week. And the song she made me sing was called I'm a Promise. Has anybody heard the song before? To this day, I swear my mom plagiarized this song. I don't know. She put her own words in there. I don't know. But she put me on the program, and it talks about I'm a promise. I'm a possibility. I'm a promise with a capital P. I'm a great big bundle of potentiality, and I am learning to do the right thing and listen to the right voice, and I am trying to make a difference in this world by choice. I promise to be everything the divine wants me to be. 6 years old. So I'm just closing my little eyes, just giving that thing my all after my week-long practice. What I didn't realize is my mom was reaffirming my identity. She was saying, you have a voice, and you're gonna use that voice to make a difference for those that look like you, come from spaces like you, and don't have the ability to be in spaces like you. And I'm like, girl, I'm 6. I don't know. But you see, it has evolved over time. And what's so special about this right, this right picture is this is actually my last keynote speech as a higher education leader because I was tired of the fluff. I wanted to get to the real stuff. I was tired of saying that, oh, change is gonna take long. You gotta be patient. You gotta slow down. No, we don't. Give us 5 years. Why would I do that? Who knows if I'm gonna be here in 5 years? Why would I wait for anybody in this room, which is another human, to tell me to slow down? Have you heard that before? Be patient. Patient for what? We need change now. We need advocacy now. We need realism now. We need to talk about what's really, really messed up right now. Patient? Girl, it is 2022. That means it's been 2022 years since the last iteration of what history. Patient? We're done with that. We're moving forward. And so with that, I want you all to, in your circle, take 3 minutes to talk about something you have overcome that people may not be able to see when they look at you. What have you overcome that people have no idea took you so much to get into this space today and that you are secretly proud of? Take a moment. How cathartic was that? Was that necessary? Yeah, because although we're soldiers in the game, we're human, right? Especially when we talk about internal wellness and internal healing. In the med tech industry, we're thinking ahead all the time. How can we get to the future? How can we innovate? How can we escalate? How can we advance? Yeah, but there's a human behind that. There are humans that we are hoping to support in all of this. And so in order to help other people, we have to first look within and honor our own existence and honor our own resiliency, both seen and unseen, right? Both external and internal. So what you'll see about me, oh, fun fact, I change my hair all the time. So don't be attached to any of these hairstyles. You should just know that. So what people see, oh my God, Melissa, you're hella fun. Melissa, you're all, you see I'm like TBD organized. It depends. It depends on the day. Thank God for Michaela. This is what you see on the outside. This is what you don't see. My wife gonna say, why your eyes hella swollen? I'm like, girl, I'm 8 months. I don't know. I don't know. This is what you don't see. Real things that I have been through. So that means before the college experience, before the singing, before the dancing, I'm still navigating all of this in this existence, in this body, in this granted life that I've been given, or as my therapist says, in this cartoon that we call a show, right? Low income. How many other fellow incomes do I have in the room that were raised low income? Yeah, me too. It's a doozy, right? You look at access differently. You look at your idea of who you can become differently because you've experienced struggle, right? Money means more than you will ever know, right? Anybody experience homelessness? Yeah, me too. Living in a car in middle school? Yeah. You're concerned about your homework. I'm concerned about being able to bathe. We're different, right? Anybody else like myself experience a sexual assault experience and we're navigating that? Yeah. Me too. 8 years old at church. Family friend. Yeah, me too, right? That does something to you. You're protective of yourself in different ways, right? You have trust issues in different ways, right? That's how you navigate this. Relationships are a little bit harder because vulnerability is a little bit tougher, right? Visually impaired. I've been wearing glasses since I was 4 years old. Let me tell you, take these things off, I can't see now one of y'all, okay? Not one of you. I don't care how big you smile. I'm like, Beyonce, is that you? I don't know. I don't know, I can't tell it. And then first generation, I put an asterisk on there because my dad migrated to the United States from Nairobi, Kenya when he was 19 years old by himself. You know how scary it is to move to a different country and you don't know the language? That is so brave. And yet and still, we are in a society that demonizes people that are moving here from different countries instead of celebrating their bravery and resiliency to say that based on media, this looks like a good idea, so I'm gonna just go. Do you know how brave that is? I don't just go anywhere, let alone move to another country hoping that I'm gonna find family, have a partner, create space, create opportunity for myself, and survive to tell the story. That is brave as hell. So from his side, I am first generation. However, my mother, born in Brooklyn, raised in Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, West Indian parents. So I've always known that blackness was so beautiful, so vast, so big, so strong, so powerful, so smart. But that's not what the world tells you. It tells you the opposite. Now, what do each of you know about your birthing story? Because in everybody's mind, when we all showed up, that's when life was lit, right? We were like, I popped out, and then life just got good. But we don't know exactly what it took for us to get here, right? When's the last time you actually asked your birthing parent, hey, how was that for you when I got here? Like, yeah, you hopefully still love me, but like, when I got here, like, was everything cool? When's the last time you've actually asked that? Probably never. You probably don't know if your birthing parent tried 7 times and then you arrived. You don't know if your birthing parent went to multiple clinical trials of IVF. You don't know. You don't know if your birthing parent had cancer and overcame that. You don't know if your birthing parent had endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids, and you know, experienced medical gaslighting in the hospital, was wrongly treated in the hospital. You don't know that. You don't know if they tried different stuff on them. You just know you arrived. And we just moved forward because as women-identified folks, we've been taught to suppress. Don't complain. Don't be upset. Move forward. Nothing's wrong with you. Be grateful for the bare minimum. Yeah, but what about what it takes to create life in your body, let alone produce life? So take a second and ask yourself, do I actually know my birthing story? And how many of you have siblings? Woo! That means your birthing parent did it again and again and again and again. My stepdaughter's turning 18. I didn't want to do it once. Take a second. Let's talk about our birthing stories. What do we know to be true? What do you know? How did you get here? How was that for you? Some of those stories sound a little spicy, honey. Some of those stories are a little spicy. When I asked my mother, I said, hey, let's talk about how I got here. She goes, actually, you're not the first person I was pregnant with. I said, oh, this is gonna be good. I found out that my mom got pregnant before I arrived and had an abortion because she wasn't financially ready to have a child. She never said that before out loud. Her and my dad just kind of dealt with it and then moved on, right? Again, we talked to suppress, suppress, suppress. When I asked her, she actually cried. And I was like, Mom, wait, how long before me did that happen? She said, 2 years. I said, oh my goodness. And ever since then, I've been asking those tough questions, like, what was it like for you in the hospital? And then she said, oh my gosh, birth control back then, it was a mess. She tried several rounds of birth control. She was swollen, she gained 40 pounds, she was having cramps, she experienced cysts, and they were just trying all different types of birth control on her, right? That's one story, one. And I was like, and you decided to have my little sister? Like, girl, But here we are, me and my sister, right? But it made me think, there's more conversations. How many birthing people do we have in the room? Meaning, how many of you have children that you birthed? What you're gonna find is that I'm gonna use inclusive language. As a queer Black woman, I have to always create space for our trans folks, our non-binary folks, our people that have the capacity to give birth that are not women identified. It's important to bring those voices in the room, let alone the Black identified folks that also experience those situations, on top of people that are non-US born that experience xenophobia in the hospital as well because they have an accent that is different than the US language, yes? So you're gonna find me opening up that conversation, stretching that language to help us grow. so that we can be thoughtful in our innovation to make sure everybody gets that access that they deserve in a way that is safe, caring, and inclusive. Yes? Yeah? It's important. Now, based on time, we don't got time for this next parent share. But I want you to think about, like, was your birthing story of you bringing in your own children the best? Did you have the best time? Was it like the TV where we're just like, oh, I just love my baby so much, I'm instantly not in pain anymore. Oh my God. Or did you look at your child and say, what the hell? Like, this took hella long, you took hella late, you came hella early, you're hella heavy, like all kind of stuff. You want to suck on my boob? Like, oh, girl. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to the body. And how many of you have more than one child? Whew. I don't know how you do it, but you did it. You chose over and over again to sacrifice your body, right, and bring life into the world. These are real conversations. But are we thinking about you? Are we thinking about your success? Are we always looking ahead? Here's my little self. My mom, my sister, and I, we moved to California. My mom was recently divorced. My sister was 3 and I was 8. She never got the chance to tell me during that time that she was experiencing hormonal dysfunction. She just knows she's gaining weight. And what did doctors tell her? You should lose weight. Oh, I hate that. You really should just lose weight. What? First of all, I'm hungry, so no. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not. I'm gonna eat, okay? I'm hungry. My birthing story, so I told you about that. Through that experience, I wish she would have told me that, because when I started to menstruate, and you'll hear me say menstruation versus when I got my period, right? When I started to menstruate, I started to realize that my menstruation was 8 days. I was clotting. I was dropping blood all the time. I had cramps, you know, the one that shoot up your ass. Terrible, terrible. My boobs were sore all the time. I had cystic acne. I was changing tampons every hour. And this is in high school. I was a cheerleader. Any other cheerleaders in the room? Ah, hey! Hey, y'all! A cheerleader, and a damn good one. I'm really big on making sure I take up space on the stage, because in my mind, if you give me the microphone, I need to use it. My job is not to bore you while I'm up here. I've always been that way, and I was a choreographer. So I was gonna shut it down every single performance. Bleed outs, dropping blood down my leg. Family never talked about it. Finally, one day, I talked to my mom's cousin. Her name was Ishma. She's also queer identified. And she said, oh, you know, Melissa, I have a really bad period. And I wanted to say, oh my gosh, me too. But no language on what that meant. It's just like, oh, you have a bad period, I have a bad period. We both menstruate terribly, moving on. Like, I'm supposed to just accept that, right? Accept that that's what our family is designed to do. They didn't know at the time that they had stage 4 endometriosis. They had no idea. It's just, you just navigate through bad menstruation, right? So you see all this. Now I'm beginning to hate my body as I'm getting older. Why does my body work like this? I hate this. Hate this. I go to the doctor, because that's what I tell you to do, right? When something is wrong, go to the doctor. I go to the doctor, female identified doctor, and I say, hey, I'm having terrible bleed outs. I'm having periods 8 days. They say, oh, we need to give you birth control. I was like, okay, well, that's what the big girls do. Like, all right. Start doing birth control. Still bleeding. Bleeding more now. Acne's going crazy. I'm gaining weight. Go back to the doctor. Oh, we gave you the wrong birth control. Let's give you a different one. Okay. Still bleeding. Even more. More. I'm bleeding in the car. I'm bleeding at work. I'm bleeding in my bed. I'm bleeding while I'm standing up. I was giving a speech one day, and blood just starts running down my leg. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. And now I'm the girl that's always bleeding. You ever tried to be intimate with somebody? Bleeding like that? Terrible. Go back to the doctor. The doctor says, well, it looks like the birth control's not working for you. I'm like, you think? At this point, I've been menstruating for 6 months straight. How do you exist at work like that? How do you find partnership like that? How do you love your body like that? So I begged for a hysterectomy, 23 years old. I was like, you can get rid of this because I am absolutely over this. And plus, I'm not trying to push anything or cut anything out. You can have it. Female doctor. What about your future husband? I was like, huh? Well, she said you're 23, so you'll probably get married around 33, 34, and when you get married to your husband, he's gonna be really upset that you're infertile, and he's not gonna wanna, stay with you anymore. Huh? So here I am in person right now, talking to you about something that's harming me, and you're advocating for this imaginary guy 10 years down the line and thinking about his feelings and his ability to be ego safe. Like, they protected this person's ego already, and I'm telling you that I'm harmed right now. Didn't ask me if I was heterosexual, right? That never even came up. It was just like, of course, you're a woman, you're meant to produce, you're gonna have a husband, he's gonna be pissed, life is gonna be over, you're gonna regret this. And I was just like, so this puddle of blood that I'm sitting in right now, like, that's off the table. So then I went into advocacy mode. I said, you know what, I'm gonna call my godmother. At the time, my godmother was a clinical herbalist because, again, West Indian, African, we go back to indigenous practices, right? If the medical field lets us down. She gives me this black cohosh tea cleanse and says, we're gonna give you this red raspberry tea, we're gonna heal the womb, we're gonna cleanse the womb. So we start drinking these teas. A black nurse practitioner who believed in holistic health but was also a certified nurse said, I'm gonna tell you right now, Melissa, you have fibroids. Because you're black, they're not gonna give you the information about this, but I'm gonna tell you how to heal your body holistically. And that's when I went vegan. I did a 3-month vegan cleanse when I was 23 years old. First of all, I lost hella weight because I was hella hungry. Talk about carrots and celery and tree bark and spinach, and I was just like, everybody's starving out here, right? And at the time, vegan food tastes like tablecloth, let's just be honest. So I was like barely eating anything, but I stopped bleeding in 3 days. 3 days. After 6+ months of bleeding, 3 days. I said, there's something to this. So after my 3 months of cleansing, I went back to dancing, because now I'm dancing in confidence. This is one of the dance groups I was a part of. We had just got out of a presentation. I remember telling them, like, hey, I'm vegan now, and they were like, oh my gosh, what are you eating? That's everybody's concern, like, what are you eating? I'm like, girl, nothing, air. And I heal myself. I said, I should probably start speaking up about this when I go to like conferences and stuff. Like, hey, there's some things going on, and birth control can sometimes be harmful. Also, the medical system, when we're thinking about advancement, we don't humanize the experience. And they were like, okay, like, do what you want to do. That's totally fine. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, I got nowhere. Nobody cared. And that's when I started to think, how often does the medical industry think about black patient wellness and healing during conversations about innovation or advancement? How often does that come up? Because yes, we're moving forward, we have this advancement, we're always thinking ahead with the next big break, but there are humans that have to be a part of these experiments and these trials in order to make it work. And are we centering them both in the research funding, research question, research experiment, and final result? And are we taking the good in that and making sure that those same patients that were sacrificed for the sake of science are also experiencing the quality of health we said we want to give? Are we doing that? How often do you as an individual think about black patient health, wellness, and well-being in your daily conversations? Because we say things like, oh my gosh, we're a society. No, we are people that make up a society. Individual people with individual agency in each one of our jobs, in each one of our meetings, in each one of our committees. We have the power to raise a question. Are we thinking about justice? Are we thinking about trans patients? Are we thinking about non-binary patients? Are we thinking about young identified folks? Are we thinking about our elderly? Are we thinking about those who have experienced injustice based on things that we have approved? Are we being apologetic about those moments? Anybody heard of this guy before? Woo, he's a problem. He is a problem. J. Marion Sims. Now, if you see on the right, he is the founder of the first women's hospital. How you do that? Oh, I know how you do that. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Okay, we're going to think the same in a minute. He's also the founder of the American Gynecological Society. The founder. J. Marion, how you do that? And you were the president of the American Medical Association? How do you do those things? Oh, I know. I know how you do that. How do you practice on people that don't want to be practiced on? Oh, people that don't have liberties, protections, and rights. That's how you get that going, right? And then you get noted as the president, the first ever, the king, the inventor. But in order to get to that, you have to practice to get it right, right? Precision, right? How do you know what it takes to have a hysterectomy? You got to try it. How many times do you have to try it? Well, luckily for us, he wrote a book about how he tried it. 471 pages to be exact, of how he raped, experimented on, and performed night surgeries on Black teenagers, Black elderly, and I'm talking about people as young as 13, all the way until death, miscarriages, people died, and they said, oh well. You ever seen any of this? When you go in for a pap smear, they have to know what that is, right? People have to invent that. How do you get it right? You got to try it, right? Right? Who do you try it on? Doesn't that look painful? Not to mention, we got plastic duck lips now. That don't look plastic to me. So then you take all these successes, right? And then you bring it into the medical field and you forget that Native American people and Black people and indigenous people suffered through this ideal of trial and error for everybody else to get it right. Because all we're thinking about is advancement. All we're thinking about is innovation. All we're thinking about is being the best and the brightest. We forgot to humanize the experience and humanize the playing field for people that are sacrificing for you to get it right. So when we talk about side effects or scientific trusts or innovation and research, I'm gonna tell you right now, every Black person, when we hear this, we got this going on. I'm gonna tell you right now. Who? What? Every time. I don't care how nice you look, I don't care how big your smile is, everybody's looking like this. So who wrote that? Why don't you try and let me see what happens to you, and then I'll be back. Because of the history of being left out and not taken care of. We called out our grandmothers' names. They're a part of this history, right? They're a part of this. Literature, research, innovation. Are we forgetting about the Black patients and the Black doctors and the Native doctors and the Native patients that were also a part of this? Or are we just putting logos on things, or are we saying that this is what we're doing? How do we get there? And y'all know you'll hear the commercials about the class action lawsuits, right? I think right now it's like powder is something they're like, if you had powder in 1980, it's like, everybody using powder, okay? We're putting it all over our bodies. Trial and error, right? But at whose expense? Sometimes we forget that my grandmother, your birthing parent, you, me, are also going to be just as impacted by our decisions and by our innovation. That means that every time we go into a space, every time we're in a meeting, we have to show up for ourselves. Put your family at the end of that question. Put your family in the end of that innovation. Put your family, your elderly, your children, put it there. When we say society and people and organizations, we dehumanize that experience, because guess what? When we're long and gone, it's our family that is going to be at the helm of these conversations and this innovation. And if we don't think back to the history and the present day humans that are still trying to win based on all of your brilliance, we will continue to miss the mark every single time. Which is why we think social justice looks like this in the streets. Advocacy. Yes, We need that. We need people that are gonna sacrifice their jobs and go make noise. But what it could also look like is this. In your meeting, in your one-on-one, in your phone conversation, in your Zoom meetings, because we all on Zoom, in your little box, you can advocate too. Show up for yourself. Show up for your family. Show up for your neighbor. Show up for your best friend. Show up for your little cousin, your nieces and nephews, your nibblings. Show up for them. They're human. They want healthcare, they want innovation, they want support, but they want to feel human too. That's why I made my movie, The Big Histo, the history behind hysterectomies, with present-day cast members, 17 cast members, who experience present-day gaslighting and medical racism and sexism and homophobia and transphobia from people who thought they were good, they were doing good, but they were treating them based on the research they had found, and they forgot that the research is subjective to who's funding it, who's writing it, and what are the guaranteed outcomes that are gonna make them more money, instead of thinking about, wow, this could be really harmful. And so now I'm on tour, having conversations just like this, and bringing in clinicians and brilliant minds like you into spaces to talk about restorative justice to the womb. And then the world just so happened to join me in a reproductive justice fight, which is so interesting because this movie took 2 years to make, and on the brink of launching it, the world decided to end. So here we are, here you all are, in space together, where we can ask ourselves with humility, but what about the Black patient? What about restorative justice? What about ending medical racism? What about restoring trust in the medtech industry so that people can stop giving you a side eye when you say, we're researching? It wasn't just me. Everybody in the room here has a story, whether you have a womb or not, has a story. Whether you're married to somebody with a womb, you have a womb, have a child with a womb, have a neighbor with a womb, come from a womb holder. And I use the term womb holder again to expand that conversation. It's not just a women's health issue, it's social justice. This is global justice. Womb health, the world doesn't move without a healthy womb. So why isn't this a bigger conversation? I'm very proud to stand here and speak on behalf of people that have come before me and those that will come after me, including my 18-year-old daughter that is currently menstruating. I want to know that when she goes to the doctor when I'm not around, that she has the language and the ability to receive just care, not only for herself, but for her friends. So, what does this mean for MedTech in the future? Well, personally, it means we get to speak truth to power and call out really big concepts that need more love and care. And professionally, that means that we need more people in more positions of authority calling out and being honest and being vulnerable and being open and ready to risk it all to ensure that the future is brighter, safer, and better. You have agency and influence. MedTech has agency and influence, each one of you in this room. And I welcome your questions and conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This conversation is not done, and we're going to keep talking about this, and we want to come talk to you all throughout the day.
Here, let me, one of my favorite quotes is "Do it afraid." My mentor gave it to me. And I say that because it's short, but there's a comma there. The first thing is do it, right? Do it. And then comma, yeah, it's hella scary, but did you do it? Did you still submit? Did you still send the email? Did you still ask the question? Did you still make that connection? Did you still think twice? Did you still advocate? So when you're thinking out there, go do it. And then she yelled at me later and said, okay, after you've done it afraid, then do it with confidence. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks for that.